Hello and welcome to the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast. We are live on Christmas sometime. It is Monday, December 20th. In this episode, Spurs and Liverpool play the game of the season. Arsenal does Leeds like City did, and City does Newcastle like they did Leeds. Wait, let me say that again. I won't say it again. But first, Mike, you've got some issues with our friend Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool in general.
Well, it's the pearl clutching clan, right? Like anything that goes wrong to them is this grave injustice and is like should be like held on some tribunal amongst all governments. And that was an incredible game. We're going to break down every minute of it. It was awesome. And I hope it wasn't the game of the season, but if it ends up being, that's a great game of the season.
All right.
And despite the fact that there was all these crazy stuff, but I'm just tired of the Silver Spoon Liverpool fans sitting here acting as if every call that doesn't go their way, which by the way, there were many in both directions in that game. And like I said, we'll go into it.
We will break it down.
And Jurgen Klopp gets in the face of the referees. And I've seen Pochettino get suspended for this. I've seen Mourinho get suspended for this. I've seen numerous managers get either suspended, disciplined, whatever. He's not going to get shit because you know why? He was born in a fucking lab. That's why. But we'll get into all of it. But you just hit us with the scores, the ones that we do have.
First, Manchester United versus Brighton, canceled. Southampton versus Brentford, canceled. West Ham versus Norwich City, canceled. Watford versus Crystal Palace, canceled. And the Battle of Clarets, Aston Villa versus Burnley, canceled. The first game that was played was Leeds versus Arsenal at Ellen Road. Arsenal just annihilate a completely depleted Leeds. Bielsa is in trouble. They win 1-4 at Ellen Road. Ellen Road was bouncing for about 5 minutes, and it appears Arteta has found his new striker. Everton Leicester, canceled. Chelsea 0, Wolves 0. Oh, Chelsea, you're not doing well. Bruno Larg, best defensive coach in the league. Oh, maybe. Then City annihilate Newcastle, just on a run, 11 goals to none against on the road, both games. City playing well at St. James's Park. They have no problem. And then the game we're going to talk about more and more and more. Spurs 2, Liverpool 2. Spurs win the XG battle. 3.4 to 1.5. And that's pretty obvious. Mike, go.
Well, we have to start with what happened an hour before the game when the lineups came out, right? And
that was scary.
My brother's a big Liverpool fan, and I texted him. I didn't see Liverpool's lineup, but I see a midfield of Tanguy Ndombele, Harry Winks, and Dele Alli. I'm going to repeat that. Tanguy Ndombele, Harry Winks, and Dele Alli. 3 more or less cast-offs amongst numerous regimes in Mourinho, with Nuno, and now sort of with Conte. But he doesn't really have
one other surprise guest, one of my sons from the championship, Mr. Ryan Sessegnon, was also in the game.
and he was phenomenal. So they played a 5-3-2. Awesome. They played a 5-3-2 with Emerson and Sessegnon as the wingers. Yeah. And he was great. That was shocking. But yeah, I say him. I see Emerson on the right. I was glad to see he was actually healthy. Davies as the left center back in a three-man back. That always scares you. And so I'm talking to my brother. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to hurt a lot.
By the way, that 3, I think is Spurs' 3.
Well, I mean, maybe.
Considering the injuries, the long-term injuries.
I think Skip has something to say about that. And I think he was very good when he came
defense?
Yeah, well, and the interesting thing is who was missing from that. The player we've talked about so much over the last year and a half is Højbjerg. And so
right. He was injured, right?
Yeah, and so Højbjerg is going to mix into that, but maybe not. But I do think Skip has something to say if there's any player that was missing per se. But yeah, Kane starts up front with Sonny, so you know that they've got that. Ability to hit them on the break, and that's exactly what they tried to do. Liverpool up front have their. But let's go to the. I think
you brought up the break, and this is how you knew. I thought you were okay. The middle of Liverpool's whole lineup, was the wrong group of dudes. It's Keita,
and they were Tyler Morton as well.
Right, it's Keita, Tyler Morton, and Milner with Konate and Matip. That is not the regular 11.
No, it's not.
So that's effectively
they're daring you. They're daring you to get behind them. And Spurs were like, okay, we'll do that. So Sonny and Kane were off to the races early and often. it frankly was a battering, right? You still have Mane, Jota, and Salah, who, by the way, all three were phenomenal again, except for Salah, who when Sessegnon empties his pockets, he's going to have his wallet, his keys, and Mohamed Salah in his pocket. Yeah. Unbelievable performance by Ryan Sessegnon.
He was so good.
But
to be frank, he didn't really have. I don't think Salah had that many chances, to be fair.
That's what I'm saying, is that Sessegnon was around. And so, yes, like you said, the game was up for grabs from the jump. Now, I didn't hear any protesting from Jurgen Klopp beforehand. Okay. And nobody's saying that anybody is at 100%. I just explained Spurs midfield situation, you with Liverpool. There are players who everyone, whether you're a fan of one of these teams or a neutral, you want to see the best teams, the best players play, right? Cynically, you want the points, whatever, however you get them. But realistically, you want to have the Fabinhos,
you want Thiago, you
Thiagos,
want Fabinho,
thank you. Yeah, so you want to beat their best.
Yeah, sure.
This was not Liverpool's best, whether realistically, aside from the front three and the left and right backs.
Now, but let's start this game, right? The first 5 minutes were scary, right? Like Liverpool were being Liverpool, right? It was, whoa, we're in trouble, right? Mm-hmm. And Robertson took a shot off target. Milner had a shot saved. Trent Alexander had a shot saved. Then Kane has a shot blocked, but then puts it in. But Spurs showed resiliency, because I thought in that first 10 minutes it was scary.
Well, it was for Spurs, right? Because you had both teams basically playing end to end, and you figure at some point this game is going to calm down. It didn't, right? What this was a quintessential FIFA game where you're playing back and forth. The only thing that was missing was like the thing where you go on a break and you hit like 3 posts within 10 seconds. Like if anybody plays FIFA, you'll understand like that shit happens. And you're like, now I have a controller dislodged in my television. But no, it was the whole way. It was frenetic is how I would put in both ways, because there was no midfield on either side. So it was just, like I said, it was open. I think and going back to what, Klopp crying in his press conference, saying, well, they played a 5-3-2 and they just sent players long. First of all, yes, that is correct. By the way, Liverpool attempted more long balls in this game than Tottenham. So shove it up your ass, Jurgen. But yes, I mean, both teams are percolating. They have their opportunities. Harry finally gets off the mark in the Premier League. I had said he would. And it was interesting. It was an assist from Tanguy Ndombele. It was a good ball. One of his only, I think he had 7 passes in the first half, and one of them was this assist to Kane. Classic clinical finish. He comes in on the right, hits it far side, low corner netting. And at that point, Spurs are off to the races. They could have had a second. They could have had a third. Dele Alli is in. And by the way, a word about Dele, who I've never gave up on, and I will always fight for and love to much. And I was probably one of the only ones left. But the thing was that Nuno had him playing in a deeper role. His strength was being that quote unquote second striker, getting in behind, in that soft spot in the defense. When Kane and Son go up, there's basically that vacated spot. He's always in that role, or always was in his best years, and he had never done that really in recent times. He was trying to be a different player.
The other thing I noticed, and it's, we talk about it and it's smart, they targeted Trent Alexander-Arnold. Like, they went down his side over and over and over again. That long ball onto Son, onto Dele, onto Sessegnon, constantly going after him. And he played okay, but they were getting joy by splitting Son and Kane wide and forcing young Tyler Morton. So Liverpool play like a 19-year-old in central midfield, and he doesn't know where to go. Right. And they're trying to track Trent. Runners. Yeah.
We talked about Trent on this show a lot. This is, by the way, this is not, to take anything away from him. He is one of the best right backs in the world. And as for the offensive qualities of his game, he is the best right back in the world. Nobody's questioning that. But the way that Liverpool play, especially without Van Dijk in this lineup, we saw it when Van Dijk was hurt last year. Yeah. It is a huge, huge weak spot for this team, because he gets forward and there's nothing to stop that break, especially if you go wide. It was interesting to see that And by the way, Eric Dyer, another great performance. He pinged balls in just to space because he was like, well, Trent's not even got on his horse yet, and Sonny is gone.
It was the crossfield Alderweireld ball.
Yes, right, exactly. But it was just like, oh, there's a huge, like, frankly, like bald spot on the field. Okay, go get it, right? So yeah, they were off to the races. I have to say, Dele has that big chance to make it 2-0, and Allison, who, by the way, is going to be a feature in this conversation of this game, makes an incredibly tough fingertip save, puts it just wide of the net. If Spurs are up 2-0 at that point, they could have been off to the races and got 3-4 by halftime.
Before that happened was the first of the controversies.
Christ, here we go.
Kane with the 2-footer on Robertson, who jumped out of the way.
Was not a 2-footer.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay,
Liverpool fans, again, they take their silver spoon out of their mouth long enough to bitch about this.
It was in the air and he went over the ball.
You know what? Fuck Andy Robertson, because last year when he stomped on Jaffa Tanganga's ankle, I didn't hear anybody saying it then.
Okay, listen,
right?
This is just what happened. He's in the air. He hits Robertson's ankle. That's no doubt. Now, what the referee didn't see and why he made the call the way he did is the ball goes flying past Robertson as though Kane hit it.
Yep.
What he did not see, because he's on the other side, is the ball hits Kane's hand and goes past him. Everything the referee sees is a clean tackle. Everything. He sees, because he's behind him, he sees Kane go in the air, he sees Robertson jump, and the ball go flying directly behind Robertson as though Kane got the ball, right? Yep. He gives the yellow card. Move on.
Yep. So, okay, and now at this point, by the way, we didn't even talk about one of the big chances that Sonny missed. Kane, Son, and Dele Alli combined all for missed. five big chances missed.
Yes.
Okay. Over the course of the game. So even if you want to say, Andy, that Spurs got lucky, and by not setting off Harry Kane, you were already lucky to not be 2-0 down when this happens.
Right.
Okay.
I understand.
So as much as I want to hear about BJ, how the refs don't have eyes or anything like that, let's be very clear about something. Your team got their shit kicked in.
Yes.
All right. And yeah, you know what? I'm not even going to say. I loved Harry's press conference, by the way. He was like, I didn't think it should have been a card. Love that.
Yeah, good.
The other thing is, and we're not going to waste all that much time on VAR in this episode because this game was too good to sully that conversation with bullshit bitching about the referees. Sorry, Liverpool fans. It happens to everybody.
Yeah, I agree. So we go on. After Dele's miss, Jota scores on really sort of good ball by Robertson, just showing like Liverpool have the two best backs in the league. I mean, the guy gets clattered. He's still playing. Like the teams are still playing, and Jota again is finding himself free. I felt like Dele was at fault there because Dyer has to come out to cover Robertson, but Dele kind of doesn't really pick up Jota. It's sixes and sevens.
I don't honestly didn't look at that as anyone at Spurs at fault. You're playing Liverpool. You've got Robbo on the left,
I'm just saying, like
and Diogo Jota. By the way, he jumps not as high, but almost. He's very Ronaldo-ish in the air.
I always think that too. I'm like, is there something going on?
And they said it on the broadcast. I think Peter Drury, who by the way is my favorite, he's when he does a game. Even when my team gets scored on, I get less mad because I get to hear Peter Drury's call. He was like, he's 5'9", and he was like going on 7'6", I think was the line that he had on the broadcast. It was fantastic. So really interesting. I mean, look, and Jota's an incredible player. And he
finally got his 10-goal season.
Yeah. And it's not even Christmas. So, I mean, he's off the races in a big way. And that's the thing is that I already talked about how Sessegnon pocketed Salah to the extent that anybody ever really can. But this was the first game in the season where he did not have a goal or an assist. So what does that tell you? But in the context of that, Jota steps up, right? So this team will find ways to beat you in so many different directions.
And the thing that I kept thinking as I was watching the half, I'm like, dude, Spurs are going to kick themselves. And I kept thinking, I'm like, Liverpool's going to pull this fucking game out of their goddamn
How many times did I tell you that?
I was like, this is fucking bullshit. I hate them. No, but the next one is the Alexander Arnold volley that doesn't go in. That was
right. Oh my God. It was a fucking laser beam. So yeah, a big saves on both sides right after the Alisson save, I think.
It's
a pinging across the box, and Trent from point blank range on the volley, dude. It hits Loris in like the knee, and I'm like, that shit hurt.
Yeah,
like that hurt.
It's Ali at 30, Jota at 35, then Alexander-Arnold on 43, and then Harry Kane on 44 plus 4. So, but there is a shot in between there, but I don't really remember this Jota shot that didn't go anywhere.
Klopp gets yellow carded in the 39th minute, which I thought was great. And so I thought, by the way, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, said the Spurs supporter, but I think that Paul Tierney did a good job refereeing the game. Now, you have to think about that in the context of this is why they have VAR to make the decisions that they do for Kane, for Robertson, for offsides, for the goal, for whatever. But in the moment, and especially that game was chippy early and often, right?
He gave out cards.
I think he did a good job. But he let it play for a while, and then he started to give out cards. And I think he handled it quite well. And especially, there were penalty shouts on both sides in the first half, and nope, we're not doing that shit. And that's another thing, right? Like
the Jota one is a call that gets got pretty often. Right. But he didn't call it. Just play on.
So is the one with Ali. They were basically mirror images, right? And so I'm okay with play on. And I've said this on the show many times. Nobody, we were talking about this, off the air. Nobody wants to see penalties. Nobody wants to sit there through a VAR review. People want to see the players. It's classic. It's classic. I hate umpires in every sport, right? Referees, umpires. Nobody fucking came to watch you, right? I'm glad that there weren't many calls. Yeah, it's going to be controversy.
The question I have is like, when you get into the punditry thing and there's this whole thing going on, I think that sometimes the pundits are ex-players or they're people in the game, and they've sort of lost connection with fandom. Or not, they haven't. They absolutely have. Like when they're like, or they think like they're a manager and they just like, well, I want the call because when I played, I just wanted the call. I'm like, but when you never were a fan. You know what I mean? Like you started at 8 years old. You've been playing. You're in the game. You've never been a fan. You don't get it. Like nobody wants that red card on the 20th minute for Harry Kane. Nobody. That would have ruined this game. It would have been a fucking catastrophe. Be mad about it.
4-1 Liverpool, but
nobody wants that.
But it's not right. It's not about the result. It's about the quality of play. What we got was 90 minutes of frenetic, amazing action.
Yeah, it was awesome, and you wouldn't have had that. Nobody wants that Jota penalty when basically, Sanchez is right in front of him. He's not getting that fucking goal unless he gets knocked over. Okay, right. Like they got him rounded up. Yes, Emerson ran into him. Now, was Tierney's explanation that he heard on the pitch right? No, but I'm glad they didn't call that penalty.
Yeah.
Because it's better this way. And I'm glad they didn't call it on Dele either. Like, you can be mad about that, but he didn't really have control of that ball. And Dele didn't get up. Dele didn't get up and say, oh, that should have been a call. He felt like he fucked up.
I wasn't mad about the penalty. I was mad about the handball that happened 12 seconds later en route to a goal for Liverpool.
But it was better this way. It was better this way. We got a 2-2 draw. The red card that Robertson gets.
Wait. We're only at halftime. Right? So we keep going, and the pace comes out for the second half, and nothing has stopped, right? They just pick up right where they left off. Yeah. Dele misses another chance. Kane, I don't know how he missed this. From literally 2 yards out on a corner. I mean, I do, because it hit the top of his head and he just kind of skied it a little bit. But literally from me to this camera, that's how far this is. And he fucking
Oh, that's right.
It.
No, it's on a deflection and he's I know. It's on a deflection and he can't really get to where he wants to go. Or he jumped already, or he wasn't expecting it. I do remember
I'm not one to criticize Harry Kane ever.
Open.
Yeah, I'm not one to criticize Harry Kane ever, but I'm just like, I don't physically understand. I do. It just was a culmination of so many things. And I think before that was like that 2-on-0 for Dele and Harry Kane. And you're sitting there, you're like, well, this is in the back of the net. And Dele's square pass, like he duffs it or whatever. And Alisson was amazing until he wasn't in this game. And he gets out and makes himself big enough that Kane really doesn't have anywhere to go and shoots it into him.
Well, he probably could have taken another touch to try and go around.
Yeah, maybe. But you and I are sitting here saying that. I thought the same thing, but you can't, the most clinical striker in England, like really, you're going to, like I trust his judgment. And so it was just one thing after another. And at this point, I go, we're going to lose 100%. Yes. You don't get this many big chances against Liverpool and miss all of them. and
you don't.
and get 3 points. You just don't.
No.
Right?
No.
And
then
when
Firmino came on, I thought that was a good move. That's what I had been talking about before, was the idea of Firmino as midfielder. But I think it actually hurt Liverpool because I think Klopp just acknowledged there is no midfield. We're just going to go get this game.
Just go. And
right.
I agree. And I don't remember who they had on the bench, but I remember speaking to my brother about it during the game. And actually I was talking with BJ as well. And I just thought that they needed something to solidify that, right? The midfield, but maybe they didn't have it.
They didn't have anybody.
Maybe they didn't have it.
They didn't have anybody. They had Firmino, Gomez,
Oxlade,
Chamberlain, and Minamino.
And it was funny because at halftime, again, Chris, my brother, a Liverpool fan, was saying, like, there's going to be a red card in this game. Who's it going to be? And I was like, I think Dele might do something stupid, but I think Tyler Morton, who's playing
on a yellow already.
He's on a yellow and he's out of his depth. And I'm like, get that fucking kid off the pitch. Like he's going to be in trouble. Like, and I'm sure he's a fine prospect and all that stuff. That was not a game you want to put that poor kid in. So I was like,
he was in. He did okay. He didn't
did all
get
right.
blown out. They should have been blown out, but he hung in. Right.
Yeah.
So then you've got Skip comes on for Ndombele. That was a good move. But then you have for some reason, I don't remember the Trent to Robertson goal.
Yeah.
Is it one of these amazing crosses?
Give me a second. All right. But so Tanguy Ndombele comes off on 64. He should have come off about 10 minutes earlier. I've said it on the show before. Tanguy Ndombele is the most frustrating player, maybe of any sport I've ever watched, because he is comfortably the most talented player technically on the pitch every time he's on it. I don't care if he's on the pitch
and out of shape.
This is going to sound more nefarious than it is. He's fucking so lazy. It's incredible, to the point where right after halftime, every time, there are games where I watch him dominate the first half. This was not one of those games. But it's even more exaggerated in those games where he does exude dominance in the first half, and then he's just running around like me in the second half. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? Where did you go? So that's exactly what happened. Right around the 55th minute, he's just sulking, walking around the pitch. And I'm like, yank his ass off, get Skip on, because he will be able, like I said, the same idea for Liverpool, solidify this fucking midfield, please. It's all over the place. Like my heart can't take it. So Skip
BJ's in the chat making comments, by the way.
Oh, I saw. Well, I'm showing him. I agree with this one. I think we did blow your doors off, and the XG proves it. But yeah, so okay, now we have the arguably, and this is probably silly, one of the three crazy moments in the second half, which were basically right in succession of each other. You've got Dele is away on the down the left side, and Alexander-Arnold, I think, crashes into him, or might have even been Robertson. I don't remember. Crashes into him. That's the Dele penalty shout. He doesn't get it. This is on 68 minutes. And everybody's like, all right, well, okay, keep moving on. Then the ball goes all the way down the field. It pinballs around the box. I think it was started with a Salah shot. It bounces out to Trent Alexander-Arnold on the right, who fizzes a ball first time into Robertson, who, by the way, it was so Scottish. And it was a very Scottish day for Robbo. But the ball is like knee high and he heads it. We're like, what the? You could use your feet, dude. Like, that's allowed. Like, just so you know. But so he heads it in from point blank range, 2-1 Liverpool. Now, this is the sequence where Salah is in the air and he heads it off of his hand very clearly. Again, they changed the rule. They got rid of that rule, so we're good. That's all nonsense. So this all happens in the same, I don't know, 60 to 90 second period. Yes. And so all of a sudden Liverpool are up 2-1. I'm like, fucking told you, this is nonsense. I can't even believe it. This is fucking ridiculous. All right. I knew it was. We all knew it was gonna. In fact, if you look, I could. There's a picture of Emerson Royal's boot right next to Robertson's face as he's heading the ball in. That's how low he got to try and put this ball in. Yeah. So absolutely wild scenes. That's on 68, 69 minutes. Yeah. And then I'm sitting there, I'm just distraught because I'm like, well, we're not going to get two. No chance. Maybe we'll get one the way that these things are going. And all of a sudden, Alisson, I don't know. How would you describe this? Who, by the way, again, I have to say, has been unfucking believable all day to this point. He just comes out and he just comes too far out of his goal and makes a misjudgment on the ball. And he like misses it. Like he miscues it. And Sonny is like, are you fucking kidding right
thank
now?
you.
Okay. So Sonny slots it home from like point blank range again. And
although he did hit it a little bit too soft. I got scared for a second.
Oh, Jesus. In a day where Spurs couldn't hit water if they fell out of a fucking boat, I was like, don't you. Okay, good. So yeah, I mean, 2-2, game on, 15 minutes left.
Well, then it's really game on in a minute, in another 5 minutes.
And then literally 2 minutes later, down the right side of the pitch, I don't know what's going on in Robertson's mind, but he kicks out a leg of Royale. A clear red card.
Fucking nailed him. I mean, it was like,
what
gnarly.
Are you doing? And again, the most Scottish thing, okay? And for those that are uninitiated with hockey, there's a term called the Gordie Howe Hat Trick. It means you've had a goal, an assist, and a fight in a single game. Andy Robertson had a Gordie Howe hat trick in the Premier League. Okay. He assisted on Jota's goal. He scored the second goal, and then he kicked the shit out of Royale and got sent off. Straight red card.
But this is where the controversy comes in. It is not a straight red. It is a yellow. Right. They go to VAR eventually to check it, and it's turned into a red. It would have been fine. I think I would have been okay with it being a yellow, fine. But once you could see it on VAR, like, oh, this has to be a red.
That has to be a red.
The problem was, why didn't they check the Kane shot? And that's where
they did.
They didn't go to VAR. He didn't ever check on the monitor. He didn't go on the monitor.
They didn't make Tierney go look at it, but I forget who the VAR ref was. And this is again,
VAR is Chris Kavanagh.
This is Kavanagh. This is not Tierney's problem. This is not his fault, so to say, right?
Exactly.
Klopp and the Kloppites and the Liverpool faithful, your anger at Paul Tierney is actually misguided because your anger
VAR
incorrectly is at the VAR, right? Yes. And so your argument is that this was not applied correctly. Right or wrong, that's where your argument is. And so now Spurs have a chance to really win the game. And they take Dele out for Lucas Moura, who at that point, I thought that was interesting because you're not going to really stretch the field, even though you're up a man, because Liverpool are kind of going to be a little bit, deeper back.
Yeah,
but Liverpool, and that's what I think, right? When this happens on 81 minutes, and they sacrifice Mane, they bring in Tsimikas to try and just solidify and get the hell out of there with that 1 point.
Yeah, and they do. I mean, basically, it fizzles out, and Spurs never really creates anything.
Sort of. Let's not forget, this is Tottenham. Shit can happen. And I forget who was down the left side, but it might have even been Tsimikas. They had Salah running in, and he took one touch too many, and he couldn't get.
No. Liverpool had chances.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
what I'm saying. By no stretch am I saying, oh, Spurs are up a man with 15 minutes. This is a sure thing. No, I'm saying we might fucking concede still. Okay?
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, absolutely wild scenes. Six additional minutes were put on.
Yes.
So there was that extra glimmer of hope. Spurs never really had a golden chance. They never really got to. The interesting thing is, after the Alisson blunder, they never really got to test him again. And I feel like if they did, he would have been shaky. We could have snuck another one by him. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. Look, we said it. The points are shared at the end of the day. If you told me when I woke up on Sunday, and then when I checked the lineup, that Spurs are going to batter Liverpool and be unlucky to get away with a point, despite what our friend Andy Leary says, then I would have just been confused. I'd be like, listen, I'm hungover, but I'm not that fucked up. So all things considered, that's a great result for Spurs.
And a fucking awesome game. And I don't know, maybe it hasn't been a few years, but it feels like Spurs plays this game once every other season. They are the game. Well,
they did it against you guys in the beginning of the year, right?
Yeah.
And so that stadium does have the ability to come alive. It's not as, what I would say is, at its best, it's as good as Anfield, but it's nowhere near the reliability of Anfield, shall we say.
No, nothing is.
No. But what I'm saying is, at its peak, I've been there. Trust me, we were down 2-0, granted, to Olympiacos, but that stadium came alive.
Yeah.
But I just, this is what we talked about with these games that were postponed. Spurs, I think, walked into this game with an advantage. They didn't play for 2-3 weeks. Yes, they were dealing with COVID issues. I understand.
Everybody
was, but the way that they were able to gel under Antonio Conte. Imagine if they basically had that was their preseason, right? They didn't get a preseason with Conte. That was their short preseason.
Those are the things I think about. Like Reguilón wasn't injured. I think that Conte saw in Sessegnon, this is a kid who's really fucking good, and I can get to him, and he can be a guy that I put into the spotlight, and he'll be my guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not, I don't think it's always about talent. It's about like creating your foot soldiers who are like, he's going to take my orders and do what I ask him, even if he's not as good as Reguilón, right?
Because, which, by the way, they bought him to be better.
Right?
They bought him to be better than Reguilón. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that this talent has finally showed up. He lit Bundesliga on fire, I think last year, maybe 2 years ago at this point.
And then at Fulham in the championship, he was fucking incredible.
Yeah, well,
that's where I loved him. I was like, when he comes up with Fulham, he's going to be good. And he had a tough season.
He had a bad season. He had a bad season in the Premier League. But nonetheless, and so we roll on. Spurs still 3 games in hand, I think, on Arsenal. They're only 5 points back, maybe 6. I don't know exactly. On the table in front of me.
We should probably transition to.
Well, one more Spurs note, right? Because like I was saying, they've got a few games in hand. They no longer officially, as of today, we talked about it, that we weren't really sure about the Europa.
Oh, they did lose. They did get that game dropped.
UEFA officially knocked them out. They called that a 3-0 loss, which
Spurs
are pretending to be pissed about it. But realistically, what that means is you don't have to play a Thursday night game in some God knows fucking country in Turkey or whatever, right? So you don't have to travel. You can focus completely on the cups and on the Premier League. And I'll tell you right now, 4th place in a trophy, it's all to play for right now. Because every second they continue to practice on Conte, they're going to be better.
I do want to call out 2 players in this game. Harry Winks, incredible.
Oh,
incredible.
That made me happy.
Incredible. And then for me, because he's one of my guys, like I talked about at the top, Sessegnon, incredible. He should start playing. Maybe he'll be the Victor Moses to that Chelsea 2014-15-16 team where you're like, where'd this winger come from who's playing as a wing back? Well, yes, okay. Yeah. So that's cool. But yeah, Winks, I think Winks always had the talent to control the ball and move it on, but he always seemed to play it backwards or sideways. Yeah. And I think Conte has been like, if you fucking do that again, I will fucking knife you like a Napoli fucking gangster. You turn and you go forward, right? Like none of this bullshit anymore.
On the other side, I think Konate was actually relatively good in a tough spot.
Liverpool are good. I mean, there's no doubt.
No, of course. But what I'm saying is, and I want to give equal time here, but we already waxed poetically about Jota. In fantasy, we have a keeper league. I'm never giving him up. I don't care. I love him. If I were watching as a neutral, my heart would bleed for Alisson because he was arguably the man of the match until really that goal, that moment.
Right, he blew it.
But no, you can't be. Yeah, and I thought Konate was really good. Robertson was the most Scottish. He was basically now groundskeeper Willie. Like that's.
I mean, but he was going to be almost. I mean, Liverpool's fullbacks, because of the nature of their team, Liverpool basically their midfield is a bunch of defenders who run.
Correct.
And everything is created by the wingers who are basically playing as the creative midfielders.
Yeah.
In this weird way where you're like, I don't know how this works, but that's what they do.
Yeah. And I thought Matip he turns like an aircraft carrier, and Spurs they abused him, and Konate could really only do as much as his partner could. So
although Matip did have that nice run where he should have shot and he didn't.
Yeah, that was interesting. He laid it off. That's right. It was late in the game. I think it was 2-2. He laid it off to Trent.
That's a defender, right? A defender is not going to feel confident enough to shoot.
Well, because he's like, if I shoot this over the bar, I'm going to get screamed at. That's what's going through his head, right? But just an absolute. You know what was? It was in a week where we named our last episode a very COVID Christmas, right? I think or something like that, and we were talking about where we are, and this is going to parlay into our next discussion topic. But it was morale is low. Right. And a lot of the games in the league, a lot of the teams weren't playing. The league, and frankly, I think the country of England needed something awesome like this. And that's why I'm not going to let Sky Sports, and I'm not going to let Gary Lineker bitch and moan, and I'm not going to let Jurgen Klopp cry about the calls, because you know what? I think they were equally distributed on both directions. And additionally, that game was too good not to talk about. It was amazing.
I don't want to hear about fucking VAR. I already hate it. I spent the whole season talking about VAR.
You did.
I never want to talk about it again.
You did. But that's the thing. It's awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about the other announcement from today, where the Premier League is struggling like everybody else is right now with the Omicron variant or whatever the hell it's called again.
It's all Greek to me.
They're going to press on. And I think it means two things. And most importantly, thankfully, this is not as much of a threat as we may have feared, which is tremendous. That's full stop there. That is amazing news for everybody, not just football fans, for fucking every single person on the planet. Great. Yeah. And it also means that in a very important period of the year for this league, we're going to get to enjoy the Boxing Day games and all of the basically between the 26th.
I don't care if they cancel half of them as long as there's some of them. I don't care.
Right. And that still may very well happen depending on, the cases and the outbreaks and whatever. But they're going to do their damnedest to try and get these games in because they're overbooked and they're trying to make sure they don't fuck themselves later on. But like I said, those two things are more prevalent, and we're going to get to have a proper Boxing Day through New Year's Day slate of games.
Hopefully.
And I'm excited.
But I do think we have to, on this upward trend of amazing football that happened, we have the downward falling stone that is called Chelsea Football Club.
Yes. Let's talk about them.
I can't even watch more of this. They complained, we don't want to play the game. We don't want to play the game. And then they played the game like they didn't want to play the game. Yep. So they go in there. Pulisic is at false nine. There's no this guy. There's no this guy. Conte's coming back after weeks. Kovacic's coming back after weeks. Tuchel's complaining about everything twice on Sunday. And they drop an egg. They score no goals. They've put only 8 shots on target. We know, and I just played Wolves, that this team is tough to play on defense. Adama Traore doesn't even start. Trincao doesn't play. He's still running Jimenez, and Podence is getting up to speed. But this is the less said about this game, the better. Essentially, Wolves are just like, we'll take the point and see you later. Mm-hmm. And Chelsea drop another set of points. I believe they've now, I'm going to look at the standings very quickly. I think that they have dropped points in, here we go. Chelsea have
it's only 2 straight. They won
2 draws, a win, and a loss.
Yeah. So
the West Ham game, then they beat Leeds barely on a bullshit call on 2 penalties, which basically means they're not creating anything, and then true draws in a row. So they've dropped 4
2 scoreless draws in a row, I believe.
Yeah. No, 1-1 and then
1-1. That's
0-0. So they can't score at all.
They are 6 points behind City. They'll be 6 points behind City on Christmas. And it's not. I've said it on the show before.
City's not losing 2 more games.
Right. 6 points is not insurmountable in theory, but 6 points to this City team, it's extremely, extremely unlikely because you said it on Twitter. The difference between Liverpool and City is that Liverpool's best 11 is, I don't think there's really any question,
plus
the best
Anfield.
team in the world.
I think Anfield is important. Yeah.
Plus Anfield, that's a good point. They're the most dangerous, probably best team in the world. They're best 1 through 11.
Yes.
But as we saw, Liverpool, you can't count on that just 11 and just Anfield, right? So other teams have pretty good stadiums too. Woohoo! But so City don't have that problem. City's 1 through 18 is a horse, right?
Is better than anyone else's, yeah.
Maybe they're not as good 1 to 11 as Liverpool, but they're 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, so on down the line. That is significantly better, not just Liverpool, than everybody else.
Yeah, basically fact, City has 2 teams.
Chelsea's probably, if you're going by depth, I'd actually say Chelsea are probably better than Liverpool too.
By depth, yes, but they're probably like 1 to 15, not 1 to 18.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, so I mean, you've got these issues where, and here comes AFCON. We don't know what's going to happen there. But assuming that takes place and assuming that Mane and Salah aren't here for a long time, I kept saying that Chelsea are going to finish 3rd, that they could finish 2nd. But the point is that it's not even a 2-horse race, I don't think, despite the fact that Liverpool are only 3 points clear.
They're gone.
I'm sorry, City are only 3 points clear of Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, but I think the thing is, and I have been, as much as the nerd is, the points are on the board, right? And expected goals and expected goals against are not, it doesn't mean you should be better. It's just indicative of the quality of how you've played, right? Is the performance. And Chelsea have been not close to their expected goal difference the whole season. And so there was a chance for them to regress. And they had those points in the bank, and that's great. But they were not the quality of the other two, right? You just saw City just put 11 goals down in 2 games and essentially make up all the goal difference. Now City and Liverpool are tied on goal difference. And that was one of the things that I thought about Liverpool all season. Their underlying numbers were right there with City, and City have now been like, no, when we take our chances, we're better than you. We've been creating chances this whole time, but the luck hasn't been with us. Now, that luck or finishing quality is something that City's going to have to deal with all the time because they don't have Salah. And Salah is a luck breaker because he is a finisher of the highest quality. Like he's going to get 50 he's going to get 25 chances. And he's going to score. Let's say he's going to get 40 chances and he's going to score 30, where City will get 40 chances and score 20, right? He's worth 10 hard chances. And then when he dips, they need Mane to step up, and Jota stepped up. So they tend to outperform their underlying numbers while Cities are like right on it, which is crazy. So I think it'll take, this week we'll find out. City are now on 44. If they get to the 47 points, what did we say? About 90 at the beginning of the season? It's going to take 90. 90 is the number. And I think Chelsea, sadly, are an 85 to 80 team. And 85 to 80 team is fucking incredible.
And that's right. And for those who have not heard us say this before, that is not a knock on Chelsea Football Club. That is just to say that they are not at the same rarefied air as City and a healthy Liverpool. So right now they're on pace for, what is that? Probably just around 80. I would put them at that. I don't know that 85 is really attainable for them.
But they're in that range. They could get 85.
They're certainly in that range. Yeah, absolutely.
And then Liverpool are probably at that, like the 86 to 90. And then I think City are in that 89 to 92 range. Yeah. And this is where Pep comes in. Pep routinely, except for the one season, it's not the Liverpool championship season where City scored but couldn't fucking do anything. He just gets into that 90-point range, especially in these 38-game seasons, especially with Barca. It's at this place where they are at about 2.5 points a game. Not 2.5 points. It's I'm trying to look for the number.
Well, it's like 2
points per match.
Or something like that.
2.4 points a game. That's just an incredible number to try and keep up with.
Well, it's just so hard. By the way, they lose games, and when they do, you're like, oh, great. But it's such an anomaly when they do that their pace is so fast that even if they drop a game, you're like, yeah, they're still fine. Like when you beat City, when Spurs beat City to start the season, it felt like a cup final almost, especially with all the Kane drama that was going into that game.
Yeah.
Spurs, granted, games in hand, are sitting in 7th, and City are in cruise control effectively at the top of the table. So,
and the other thing is
pace is so good that even when they fall off for a moment, they go, "Well, is the door creaking open?" Not really, right?
I mean, City won the league last season with 6 losses, but in the Centurion and 98-point seasons, they only had 4, and they don't draw. Like they go for wins.
They're on pace for 4 losses this year.
Yeah. And 5 losses is not much. No. They won the league and they don't draw. I think that's the key thing too. They push for those wins because they don't care. They're like, well, we'll push for those wins because I know it sounds stupid, but the 3 is better than 1. It's different at the higher levels, right? Like, no, it is. I think Liverpool have lost leagues because they drew, not because they lost games.
Yep.
Like the 98-point season is because City caught them because of draws. You got to get those wins on the board.
Yeah. And so I want to transition to one of the only other games we had to talk about. I didn't see much of it, but just talking about the race, Arsenal beat the piss out of Leeds, and we've worried about Leeds a little bit here. They are a bit in trouble.
Bad shape.
But how about the week that Gabriel Martinelli has had? As a Spurs supporter, I can't actively say this, but good for him.
He's good. He's really good.
He's really good. We talked about him on the show a lot last year. He's in the infirmary more than he's on the field, and when he's there, though, and I said, I'm like, this kid is really dangerous for Arsenal. I do not like him. He scares me.
Now,
and here he is. And Arsenal are 4 points clear. Granted, West Ham has a game in hand, fine. But they're 4 points clear of West Ham for fourth, 5 for United, and 6 for Spurs on fourth place. Who thought that at the beginning of the season? So
I did.
For them. Bullshit. You had them at like 7th.
No, I had them in Europe. I had them in 5th. I think the key thing here is settled defense. Ramsdale's made the difference. They've brought Xhaka back in. I don't know how I feel about it, but he is a solid mover of the ball. His pass to Martinelli for the second goal was fucking incredible. One of those straight through balls on a diagonal run. And I think the difference is without Aubameyang playing is that Lacazette, while not the flashy goal scorer that Aubameyang can be, he's not as good a finisher. What Lacazette does is he drops into the midfield and allows people he does more of what a center forward can do. He has more skills, right? He has a more varied thing to do. He will drop in, back to goal, lay it off, let someone take off. He's got a little bit of juice in him. And like I said, with Arsenal, they're the youngest of the top 10.
They're the youngest in the Premier League.
Yes, by a year, which is a lot.
Yes, that's a lot.
And then the Leeds side of things is coming off a game where they get the doors blown off them. Half their team is injured. They've got 15. I mean, I'm not even being kidding. 15-year-old kids on the bench because they can't get enough players to play. Right. On top of that, you've got the Bielsa thing. They just don't have enough to hang in here. Mm-hmm. And I think expecting guys like Jack Harrison and Rafinha to carry you, they're not getting it from Harrison. Rafinha gave them a juice in the first 10 games of the season, but now they just have to hang on and get into that mindset where, are we better than the 3 beneath us? We've got to be better than 3 other teams. I think they are better than 3 other teams.
Are they better than Watford and Burnley is the question.
Yes, they are better than Watford and Burnley.
Well, so here's the rub. At Christmas, Leeds are going to, and this is where the postponed games are going to start to matter. Leeds are on 16 points through 18 games. Watford, 3 points behind them at 13 with a better goal difference because Leeds got their heads kicked in twice now with 2 games in hand. We talked about it. Go for the win. Watford, go for the fucking wins. You're going to pass Leeds United. That puts them into the precarious 17th spot. Who is fighting with them? Burnley. Burnley are 5 points behind them with 3 games in hand. So this could get really murky really fast for Leeds.
By the way, that Burnley 3 games in hand is a huge difference because now they don't lose any Maxwell Cornet games because he's had time to come back together because he had been hurt and they can get healthy and go on. We trust Burnley the most.
Yes.
We know Norwich, I don't trust them. Newcastle, we can talk about City just
Newcastle
being metronomic.
Newcastle, I'm waiting to reserve judgment until after the January transfer period.
But they still have to they still have to turn it around, right? They're the one on 18 and only 10 points.
But if they get 2 good players in January, they'll be fine.
Well, it's going to be a dogfight.
No,
because I think it's clear
where they are right
it's
now.
It's clearly 5 teams, right? I think Southampton. No one thinks Southampton's going down. They're too good. Well, maybe they're not too good. Everton. I don't think Brentford are going down. Their underlying quality is too good. If they can get,
but they're already on 20 and they only have 16 games played, right? So
right, and it's only going to be a 35 point. You only need 35.
Yeah. That's the other thing. When you've got teams at the top of the table hitting the 90 and 85 point,
they're coming from somewhere.
They're coming right. They're coming from somewhere. So that we always say 40 points is Ali oxen free. You're good.
Oh no, 40 points is actually way higher than normal.
Right.
It's really like 35, 36.
Yeah. So that's kind of where Brentford are at 20. They're fine. They're good. They're going to be fine. And then when you talk about that, I think it's a 5-horse race for 3 spots. And I'm going to give Norwich some play a little bit here. I like Dean
They're on
Smith,
10.
I want to see him.
If they win 2 games in a row, they're out.
That's what I'm saying. If they play Watford and they beat Watford, you could see that, right? If they play Leeds, they could beat Leeds.
They definitely can beat Leeds.
So that's what I'm saying is that like Southampton feel maybe even just slightly, just a slight cut above what the lowest those 5, if you will, maybe a little.
So
you know what? I feel like James Ward-Prowse is too.
Are you
good.
ready? Are you ready for Norwich's next game?
Okay.
West Ham, Arsenal, Palace, Leicester, Everton, Watford. That week 22-23. That's mid to late January. Everton, Watford is where they've got to get points.
I feel like if I were a Norwich fan hearing that, I just got gut punched. Because I apologize to Norwich fans because I just gave you guys some thoughts and some hope there.
They got. No
I'm gonna go ahead and walk that back. Yeah.
They're in trouble.
Yeah, you're in trouble, guys.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, all these teams are in trouble, right? Like if I look at Watford's, they've got Burnley, Palace, Wolves, West Ham, Spurs. That's not fun.
No,
because Palace are the good ones there. You have to. The thing that Watford has is they have Emmanuel Dennis. They have a dynamic player who's up there in goals and assists, and they have Josh King. They've got the hard part down, which is scoring goals. The problem is they can't stop any goals.
Yeah, defending. Yeah.
They're so bad.
Speaking of defending, real quick, I want to double back to Wolves. Jose Sa has been a revelation in net for them this year.
Fantastic.
Really, really strong. Arguably one of the best goalkeepers in the league right now. So what's interesting when you look at where they are with Leicester, you keep banging on it, and you're not wrong about how Schmeichel is done, right?
He's bad.
but Wolves are, for a team that plays as defensively sound as they do, you need a savior in the back every once in a while. And Sa has done that. You saw it again against Chelsea. He's making I don't have the stats in front of me, but like even looking at,
he is the number 1 goalkeeper in goals added against. So post shot expected goals minus goals allowed. He has saved 6, almost 7 goals more than you would expect.
Right.
And on the other side, Schmeichel is in the bottom 3, 4 worse. So it's one of these things where it's not everything, but it can give you an underlying thing. It's what happened. So who was the number 1 there? It was Mendy, and Mendy has dropped down because he started giving things up. And it's not unusual. You kind of want to be in the middle of the pack. City aren't very good. You can tell United have had their ass saved by De Gea. He's having one of those seasons. Mm-hmm. He's right behind Sa at 6.5 goals. So these are saves versus basically it's your expected goals where your goalkeeper is
that
saving
didn't go in.
your
No,
ass.
I get it. I know. I get it. And again, going back to Alisson, the one of the interesting things about that game was that we had maybe not playing out from the back or whatever, but like pure shot stopping, pure reflexes.
He's so
Hugo
good.
Lloris and Alisson. That was arguably the matchup of the 2 best shot stoppers in the league. Maybe De Gea in that conversation as well. But that I'm not even close to over that game yet. And it was so much fun to watch. It was less fun as a Spurs supporter because my heart was in my throat the whole time. But my God, like it was awesome. I'm not going to have, I'll have a few days to kind of drink it in, and then we'll get ready for the EFL Cup, which you know what? I'm changing my ways. Let's go fucking win it this year. Let's go win it. Because you know what? Now I've gotten what I wanted. I've done what I wanted. We're out of Europe. This I don't care. Let's go fucking win it. Usually, ready. For those that don't know, I hate it. I hate that competition, but it's because we're trying to fight on 4 fronts. Now we're not traveling. We're playing West Ham, I think, in the next round. Let's go beat those sons of bitches. I'm ready. Let's do it. Let's go get a trophy, boys. What else you got? Have we
touched that? Did we miss any game? So we didn't really touch on City too much, just that they beat West Ham, Newcastle, who City played in like first gear for the first half, got 2 goals by accident, and then second half they were like, we're not fucking with you people, and just stomped them. But again, City just, they roll on, they shift players, they change who's in, they put in who's out. I mean, this was Ruben Diaz on a mistake. I mean, when you're in the relegation zone, you can't not clear a ball because you think your goalkeeper has it. So Kieran Clark just lets a ball go. It drops to the ground in the 6-yard box. Ruben Diaz pops it in. Then Cancelo with a nuclear missile scoring his classics there. Riyad Mahrez getting on the score sheet, and then Raheem Sterling with the classic back post Raheem Sterling tap in from Gabriel Jesus. Nothing going on for Wolves. for Newcastle, they
Saint-Maximin, Callum Wilson, nothing.
I mean, they put a shot on target. Essentially what was weird was Joe Willock was playing, and he was playing really well. And at halftime, they put on Saint-Maximin to try and go get a goal back, and that just weakened the midfield for Newcastle. And then City just do their thing where they pass it around, they speed it up, they slow down, they do whatever they want to do. And I think the key thing as a City fan that I'm seeing is De Bruyne being back is just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this guy just showed up. Old school De Bruyne is just like, he looks thinner. He looks less bloated. He's moving. His passing is there. Everything is there. The fight, the bite. He clearly
when you have ankle and ligament injuries, there's literally nothing that makes you better but time, and just give it some time off. And I was glad to see that he was able to do that after the Euros, where there were so many questions about him. But yeah, you add him. Oh, of course, it always does. But you add him to the Man City Arsenal, who, by the way, tied on goal difference with Liverpool too. So realistically, a 3-point deficit is now a 4-point deficit. Yeah, really.
The other piece is like, and Pep is like disciplining. Apparently, Grealish and Foden fucking got dropped because they were acting like teenagers because they're little kids and probably were drinking and shit housing. And Pep's like,
Grealish definitely was.
There is no, like, when you play for City, one of the things is there's no margin for anything. Like, you toe the line, or you just don't play. Like, there's no room for like, oh, you're hungover. Oh, you're hungover, you can't play. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we're so good, you can't be diminished 1%. Mm-hmm. Right? You've got to be perfect, or you don't play.
And that's part of the reason why we talked about it on the show. Better. That's why City is misconstrued as boring, as quiet, as whatever. They're robotic. No, they're just not allowed to be, because Pep, realistically, two things. Pep is a megalomaniac, but also there's so much competition for those places that, exactly, if you fuck around, you're out. You're on the bench.
And even like Cole Palmer, who's, leading the under 23s in goals, but also he'll play 2 games in a day. He'll play for the under 23s and then play for City. He's there waiting, and he's just like, I can score. I'm as good as you. Fuck around with me. Right. Fuck with me, and I'll come after you. Like, Walker gets that red card. He's not been seen since. It's like,
well, that's what happened with Cancelo last year, right?
Right, exactly. He got the red. He's vanished. You're out.
You're done. I thought that would continue into this year, but I'm happy for him that it didn't, even though he cost me fantasy championship.
Yeah, Walker is incredible. But City just, they are robotic. They do. I mean, we do take it for granted. We do sort of just like expect them to be a destructive force. And I think it's sort of, what it reminds me of? Basically, City are Albert Pujols. Albert Pujols, for 15 years, was 38, 110 with a 310 average every year. Basically, he was the MVP for a decade. And he never won any, because the first 2 years, Barry Bonds was cheating. And then after that, he just was incredible. Yeah. And he had a normal, regular down part of his career. Like, the last 5 years, he kind of sucked, which is what's supposed to happen. Yeah. But for those 15 years, he was literally called the Machine.
Yeah, he's walking into the Hall of Fame, no problem.
Yeah. And
but you're right. That's a good parallel. It's all overlooked frequently because of your talent, not because of anything else, right? Like, you just come to expect it.
Yeah, I think another parallel is like LeBron James. It's just like, dude, the guy is 26, 10, and 8 for 20 years. Right. He could have been the MVP every year.
Oh, sure.
And you just go, well, it's LeBron, I get. But LeBron does create drama, right? He's like, I'm changing teams. Chinese shoes, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of just on performance, right? Performance-wise, he's the same every year, right? He's metronomic, right? Doesn't get hurt, just plays and play. I mean, race lately, but historic, like, that's what City are as a collective. There is no individual. They're like the most communist team ever. It's all about, Stalin as Pep, and they just fucking keep going.
That's exactly what it is. And that's your World War II reference right at the buzzer.
Oh, right at the buzzer. Right? We had 5 games, but we still did 60 minutes of television. Anyway, rock on, everybody. I will take us home on my own. That was the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast, and we were live with Mike Salerno and Laurent Cortines. We are the football wing of the Chop Sports Network. We record on Tuesdays, sometimes Mondays, and Fridays, sometimes Thursdays. So be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. so you never miss an episode. And if you're listening on Apple, please rate and review the show because we need it. And I have to end the show.